Now, without further ado, we are going to get into our next run, which is Diddy Kong Racing with Leah. All trophy races. Vroom vroom, Leah, let's go.
Hello, hello, hello. This is a really cool racing game, and it doesn't get enough appreciation, really. You know, everyone tends to say, you know, compare this game to Mario Kart 64, and most people would agree this game is better than Mario Kart 64, but yet it never gets the spotlight. So, we're doing our best to change that, and yeah, I'll be contributing to that today by showing off all trophy races, which basically just goes through all 20 of the tracks as fast as possible. Basically your all cups, your 20 tracks, that kind of category. Yeah, we got quite a bit to get through here, so we're just gonna waste no more time and get this thing started in 3, 2, 1, and go. So there are 3 vehicles in DKR, but most of this run is going to be played in the car, 12 out of 20 tracks to be precise. The thing about the car, and the #1 most popular, maybe infamous speed tech in this game, you might have heard of, is A-tapping. So in the car, the A button will give you a burst of acceleration, but it will also give you traction onto the ground, which slows you down. So you can kind of exploit this by tapping the A button rhythmically. It's not mashing, that's a common misconception. You want to tap once every 4 frames, ideally, to get the best of both worlds there. And yeah, that basically makes you move way faster than if you were just holding the A button. We also released the A button for zippers, which is... oh, not just zippers, all boosts, which is an intended mechanic that the game tells you about. But right off Ancient Lake, which is a pretty simple track, we're going into a much more complicated one, Fossil Canyon. A thing here. Didn't quite get it. This is like the hardest second track ever in a racing game, honestly. There is so much that can happen here. So many jumps and slopes and everything. Things of all sorts. Whee! Like that. There is a strat I'm trying to hit in that canyon section called Canyonless. The name inspired by a certain trick in another N64 game that you've probably heard of. I get it here. Oh, let's go. Awesome ending. That's exactly what we want. That is a good Fossil Canyon. You usually want to get sub-mid there, and that is a low 58, so yeah, pretty solid. And this is a fan favourite track. I am running very low on bananas, oh dear. I'm going to take a little detour to get some more. Everyone loves Jungle Falls. This is a really fast track, except when you miss zippers. Ooh. This track either goes really well or it goes really poorly and you lose like 7 seconds. But yeah, generally, maybe you can show this up on the last lap, it's a really fast track with a great soundtrack. In fact, this entire game has a great soundtrack. Everyone agrees with that.
Yep, shout out to David Wise.
Yes, David Wise, my beloved, he can do no wrong.
Yes. He's like Phil Collins for gamers. I love him.
We've just done 3 car tracks, but we're now introduced to our first alternate vehicle, the plane. Now the plane has great control over all 3 axes, and with that you can do some less intentional things, like this. I am not happy about the fact that I only have 2 bananas out here though. For reference, bananas, each one up to a cap of 10 adds 2.5% to your top speed and acceleration. You typically want at least 4 going out of bounds here, but 2 is not very good. But anyway, there were just 2 key checkpoints we're trying to hit here, and that, if we just do that, the game considers us to have completed a lap, which is a little weird. The reason why the clip works at all is because in the barrel roll state, which we're going to be doing pretty much all the time in plane, the game ignores liquids, so we can barrel roll beneath the molten cheese, whatever you want to call it, and by the time we're done with the barrel roll, we're underneath the wall, and the game pops us back up, out of bounds. Which is really cool, lets us do stuff like that. And from one new vehicle to the last new vehicle, we're going into the hovercraft now. Sadly, the hovercraft is quite underrepresented in most RTA categories in this game. It only has 3 tracks that are typically played with it, which equates to like 15% of this run. But it is a very interesting vehicle, maybe even the most interesting one. Now, casual players typically hate the hovercraft, because it is not really intuitive how you're supposed to drive it. But once you figure it out, it is surprisingly fun, and a lot of people's favourite vehicle, actually. So you'll notice I am repeatedly snaking. This is basically holding the R button and moving from up left to up right on the joystick, which there's a little inbuilt speed mechanic in the hovercraft where you gain speed while turning. So this basically exploits that, so we can constantly get that speed boost on straightaways. And it lets us go really fast, along with a different form of A-tapping, which works a bit differently to in car, and is a bit harder to do well, but combine those things, you can go really fast in hover. And we're going straight into the second hover track out of only 3 in the run. And this is generally considered to be by far the hardest one. There are huge boost chains you can do here. And boost chains are really important in hovercraft, generally. Like this one. Every time you come off a boost in the hovercraft, you need to hold the A button for a little while before you go back into A-tapping, which is quite slow. So what you really want to do, if you can, is chain boosts as much as possible, so that you don't have to do that as many times. So ideally there, which I did on lap 2, you can chain a balloon, a zipper, and another balloon and another zipper all across that part, and go really, really fast. But back into car for a bit now. But a fairly simple track here. This is probably the most chill car track in the run, to be honest. Crescent Island. And this lets us talk about pitch control in the car, like that. You can actually control your height in the car to some extent. By pulling back or pushing forward on the joystick, you can push the nose of your car up or down in the air. So in that case, going down to the ship there, we want to pull back a little bit so we get a bit more airtime. This does sacrifice a tiny bit of speed, but it lets us jump further, which overall saves time there. There are a few other places we'll be doing that as well. But generally, jumps and car go really well together. The only problem is that you lose a lot of control, but if you go off a jump, you will maintain pretty much all of your speed that you had before you went off the jump. So you can imagine how that could be really useful in some places. But yeah, it's a fairly smooth Crescent Island. It's better to take this last turn slow rather than trying to go for it at full speed. And our last track is Sherbet Island here. And another really quick one. It's also got a boost chain, which I would like to hit at least once. But it's fairly difficult. Get ourselves up to 10 bananas here. Remember that the bananas no longer have an effect above 10. Whee! Big jump. Sometimes stuff like that just happens in this game. This game is really volatile. In like the best possible way. Crazy things can just happen sometimes. Ah. I got nudged out of the way of that balloon every time, unfortunately, so I couldn't do the chain, but you can chain that balloon with that zipper, and then get a huge speed boost into this one as well. That's our second trophy out of 5 done already. For the next track, we're going back into the plane, and it's actually an inbounds plane track. There are some tracks that we simply can't get out of bounds on, even with how versatile the plane is. But inbounds plane tracks often show the best of the plane's movement, and this is also considered to be a really difficult track usually, so I think I'm going to go ahead and focus for this one and hand... Oh great. I'm going to go ahead and focus for this one to the best of my ability and then hand over to the hosts for the duration of this track.
Thank you so much, Leah. Wow, this run is bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S. Anyways, an update about our incentives. So these are closing very quickly because, as you can see, Leah is cruising through here with absolute speed. For our very next run, Beastie Ball, you can name the 3 characters. So you can name Fruitflux, you can name Kitschik, you can name Sprecko, and right now there is only one name each for Kitschik and Sprecko. So you can go in and you could snipe that right now. And you could be the person who names this and has this forever live on in the YouTube VODs. Go ahead and hit ! donate in chat. And while you're doing that, that is going to go towards our next milestone, which is $1,025. And that is to meet our Prevent-A-Thon 1 total.
This tries another fan favorite track generally. Opinions are a little more divided on this one as speedrunning because it is one of the hardest car tracks, but this is universally loved casually, and for good reason. This entire world is kind of like advertisements as soon as the 31st of October's over, and this track especially. But yeah, this is a very fun and bumpy car track. The bumpiness meaning it's really hard to control, but you can get some nice big jumps like that. And I'm trying to get that balloon as well, so I can have an extra balloon for the ending here, and do some extra cool stuff. Oh, how did I not hit that mine?
Oh, that was close.
A little sketchy.
Yeah.
Okay, we had another chance to hit it. On some paces, a CPU will steal that balloon, which is quite annoying when it happens. Okay, there we go. Oh, banjo. The CPUs in this game tend to function as stationary obstacles, rather than like actual other races that try and hunt you down. They don't rubber band at all, like in Mario Kart, so you'll just end up lapping them once in most tracks, sometimes even twice. So they usually just get in the way, but you can generally learn where they will probably be on most tracks. And on that note, the CPU difficulty increases in the trophy race mode, which we're currently in, compared to playing the tracks individually. So they can be pacing differently, depending on how you're playing the track. A lot of the time though, the stronger computers in Trophy Race is actually a good thing, because it means we encounter them later in the track, and generally that means they're more out of the way, or sometimes we don't even encounter them at all. This track is extremely volatile, possibly the sketchiest one in the whole run. Honestly, it's never consistent. You either get a 44 like I did, or you get like a 37 or something. It's all over the place. And finally, to finish off Snowflake Mountain, we have another fan favourite track. This one is more universally loved in speedrunning than Morris Code is. This is a super bouncy track, but it's a lot easier to control, but still fairly difficult. This is also one of the laggiest tracks in the game. Which I should mention, we're playing this on an original N64 console. That frame rate is not the stream lagging, that is actually the console lagging, and dipping down to 15 or lower frames per second. And another thing about that, the music actually does lag the game, so unfortunately for PB/record attempts in this category, we do have to turn the music off. Which sounds criminal, but it must be done for the extra speed. Because in this game, the physics are actually dependent on the frame rate. That's quite a good Frosty Village. Oops, got the menu. The physics are dependent on the frame rate in this game. That is to say, you'll build speed more easily if you've got a high frame rate, but when you're transitioning into the second half of a boost or losing speed, you actually want the frame rate to be lower. Because as you can imagine, with physics-based, or frame rate-based physics, you'll like gain or lose a certain amount of speed per frame rather than like per second. So yeah, more frames per second when you're building speed, less when you're losing it, is the ideal. On that subject, this is probably the track that is the most affected by having music on. It's like a completely different game playing this track with music on, and I don't think there's any other track like it that is affected that much. Except for the first Whizkick race, which is not in this category because that's an adventure mode race. That one is very much affected by having the music on. You can still get lagless boosts like that though. Generally if we get a 30 FPS boost, which is the maximum frame rate the game can run at, we call that a lagless boost. And they are really cool if you get them. Like, even with the music on, there are still some cases where you can get lagless. And I should say this is also our last hovercraft track. Only 3 of them in the run, unfortunately. So, yeah, just a few seconds left here, and then we'll say goodbye to the funny little rubber band ball. 111 is quite a good time to get the music on, actually. It makes it that much harder to go fast. But with that out of the way, we've just got a mixture of car and plane tracks now, pretty evenly, plus the rest of the run. And this is one of the harder car tracks as well. One of the more divisive ones. A lot of people really like this one, myself included. Some people don't like it so much. This section is notorious. Like that. You may be wondering about that well over there. There is a little path down if you take that well. If you go down there, there is a secret path, but contrary to popular belief, it is slower in pretty much every case. I'd say pretty much because you may or may not know that this game has a DS version, and in the DS version, specifically when playing the track in a hovercraft, the well is actually faster to take, but that's the only case in which it is faster. In all cases in N64, and when playing in a car on DS, it is slower, so don't be fooled. Heading back into the plane now, we have the hardest out of bounds in the run by most accounts. And I'm gonna see if I can focus up, leading up to a clip in this one. I'd like to get 9 bananas here. There we go, that will give me 9, because there's a free one over here. That's the most you can get without slowing down. Ooh. My movement leading up to the clip there was really iffy. I'm not surprised that was kind of an iffy clip, but nonetheless we're out of bounds, which is the important part. However, this track is also, on top of having the hardest clip in the run, the out of bounds movement is also the hardest out of any track in this category. We have to change our height a lot in this out of bounds, which is unlike the other 2 we'll be doing. Well, Hot Top Volcano and the other one we'll be doing towards the end of the run. And it is also very easy to accidentally clip back in this track, which is a real bummer if it happens. Don't want that to happen. But with any luck, you get close to a minute here. You can actually go as fast as getting a 56 on that track, which I have gotten a few times before. But, I mean, any time around a minute is generally considered to be solid. And rounding out Dragon Forest here is the last car track of this trophy. And another very fun and fast one. One of my personal favourites. We're playing this track a lot in the time trial mode recently. So I don't know if it's going to reflect in my performance here, but let's hope it does. Oh dear. Normally when you take that zipper, that following turn is kind of a blind turn. It's a really inconsistent one, but it's also really fast when you do it properly. Cheeky little fountain hop here as well. Oh, okay, I got a punch for that. Never mind, we can't have fun. Yeah, regarding that, the CPUs don't tend to directly attack you like that very much, but sometimes they do. Generally they tend to use items when you do, so if you're holding onto like a missile or a trap or something, it's actually better to not use it, because most of the times it won't affect them anyway, and then it might lead them to lay a trap or shoot you with a missile. Aside from that though, we're now in the final world, and when you might have not even known it existed if you never beat this game as a kid. Here it is kind of hard to find through intended means, unless you already know about it. But yeah, these are the last 4 tracks. We've got 2 plane tracks and 2 car tracks, and this is another one of the really difficult inbound plane tracks, so I think I'm going to let the gameplay speak for itself and hand back over to the host for this one.
Thanks so much. This run is just mind-blowing. It's going by so quickly. So really, you only have a couple minutes left to name the characters in our next game, Beastie Ball. We have 3 characters to name: Frufolks, Kitschik, Sprecko, and right now, they could be named anything. Well, within reason. But get those donations in. Link is in the chat right now. You go to preventathon.com/donate, and I would love to see what you all come up with. But again, like, this is going to close before the next run begins, and this run is almost done.
I must say I was kind of disappointed in my Everfrost peak earlier. I made a long mistake there, but that was a much better race there. And that is generally considered to be, like, possibly the hardest out of all 20 tracks in the game. It is really difficult to do that track consistently, and for that reason we often start with this trophy instead of Dino Domain, because you can do the trophies in any order. I'd say it's one of 3 common trophy orders. You either start with this trophy, you start with Dino Domain, or you start with Snowflake Mountain is a more recent development, because Snowflake Mountain is also a really difficult trophy. I'm gonna try something here, I don't know if I'm gonna hit it. Okay, that's fine. We have a few more chances. Wink wink. This is another one of the really laggy tracks, but this is also just a super cool track. You can go really fast in this one, but it's kind of unconventional to go fast in this track. It's arguably like one of the most unconventional car tracks in the game. So yeah, one of the most difficult ones to get good at. Oh. Ah. One more chance.
Can I jump in with a quick donation?
Yes.
We have $5 from Alara, who says, "What if the goodest boy wants to speedrun too?" And I think the goodest boy she's referring to is Pat the dog, our lovely mascot. Thanks, Alara.
Right, we technically have 2 more chances to hit this really cool, funny looking thing. Okay, didn't get it there. Pray. Let's pray. Ah, didn't get it. Okay. Right, I'll stop the suspense and tell you what it is. So if you kind of smash into the loop wall perpendicularly, and right where the loop boost begins, you can kind of have it send you upwards at a 90-degree angle. And this basically lets you fly out of bounds. It doesn't say very much at all unless you do it from the first loop, which is extremely hard. It's a bit more consistent from the second one. But yeah, it looks really, really cool if you get it. But unfortunately it's quite hard to do it, and you only have like 3-ish chances in a run like this. But oh well, we've hit plenty of other things in this run. I'm not going to complain. Happy Pride, by the way. Pride Tunnel. Did one more time on lap 3. Every month with Pride Month. Anyway, this is the final kart track in the run, and the second to last track in the run as a whole. So we're getting close to the end of this thing. Really nice. Oh, not so nice. I kind of got stuck in the wall there. I'm gonna try again on lap 3. There is a cool boost chain you can do there, zipper into 2 separate balloons. On that note, using 2 blue balloons by themselves rather than stacking them up to get a level 2 boost is generally better. I didn't get to try it. Alright. Final track. If I play fairly well here, I can get sub 24 on this run, which is a time I like to get. So, this is our final track. It is a plane track, so if you've done your homework, you probably know what a plane track means. This is a rather interesting track as well, because it's the only reason why we're playing on the Japanese version of the game. So the Japanese version was the first version released. They missed some stuff. Like this. They forgot to put a polygon there, so you can just kind of flip out of bounds really easily. And with that in mind, there are only 3 checkpoints to hit in this track. Not much time left to go in this run, so the time will stop as soon as I cross the finish line on lap 3. Let's hope this is a sub 24, because I'd really like to get one. Oh, I don't know if I hit that checkpoint. Okay, I did. Right, get ready on time in like 5 seconds. There we go, that's time. By my count, that was a 23:59.8. Just barely. On my end.
Timer stopped at 24 minutes, so you made it. You made it. Great job.
Right.
Do you have any shoutouts? This was just so fun to watch.
Yeah, it is. This is like one of the most underrated speed games of all time. Like, as far as N64 speedruns go, this is the 8th best-selling game on the console. The 2nd best-selling if you don't count games that were bundled with the console, but like, so many other N64 runs get orders of magnitude more attention than this game. And I really wish this game were a bit more popular, but at the same time, I mean, they're not releasing this one on Switch Online, so it's a bit unfortunate. I really wish this game were on Switch Online. It would allow so many more people to get into it. But nonetheless, I want to shout out the entire DKR community, because in my 6 years of speedrunning, they have been my absolute favourite community to hang out with, even in real life. They are the best bunch of people to like VC with at 3 in the morning and do all kinds of other fun things with. This community is still pushing this game to this day. It's such a deep game. Learning this game will give you so much. I say that from experience, so I highly encourage you, if you are able to give this game a shot. Even casually, everyone agrees this is such a good game, so yeah. That is all I have to say, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Qbit, do you have any shoutouts to make?
Hi, I'm Qbit. As a commentator, just here to vibe. Apparently I was one of the few people as a kid who found the space world when I first played this back in the day, so that's exciting to hear. Aside from that though, no, I do not have any shoutouts aside from this game. I agree with mostly everything Leah said, and I have speedrun Mario Kart 64, and I still agree this is the better game in several ways. So yeah, thanks for having me on and for letting me vibe.
Thank you both for being here. This was a lot of fun to watch. A quick update on our incentive bid war for our next run. For naming Kitchik, Pat the Dog is now in the lead. So if you want Kitchik to be named Lettuce, you should get those donations in, because we are closing that in just a couple of minutes. So you can name Fruit Folks, you can name Kitchik, you can name Sprecko, and you don't have a lot of time to do so. In other news, I'm so excited to introduce you to my good friend Alara, who is going to tell you about something you may have seen in the schedule called Mystery Race. Alara, what can you tell us about this Mystery Race?